wants to be rude. Hi, everybody. This is Ashlyn and Shannon with the Texas Prison Transparency Project and the Troll page. We are here with some really great friends of mine, Brandon and Audra. They are with Forgiven Felons in Favor Legal. And they are huge supporters of Mr. Rami, a.k.a. Megamind.
Megamind.
So we're here to talk about what's happening with the Tank Nation, because it is a huge mystery. It's got a lot of
people kind of incensed and confused and looking for answers. Like, what is going on here? And for anybody out there who doesn't know what the Tank Nation is, the Tank is a radio show that is actually produced and broadcasted from TDCJ, from an actual unit, Polunsky unit, no less, which wasn't it Death Row?
Right? Exactly.
It used to be Death Row. They still got them over there? Yep. So this is coming out of the deepest heart of the Texas prison system. But the thing is, they created something miraculous, something amazing that reached across the system through the advent of tablets, and it's free. So all the indigent inmates and stuff on the inside, when you ain't got nothing else to do and everything is chaotic and crazy all around you, I can't tell you how many nights I laid in my bed, days, if I didn't have a job. I'd lay in my bed or sit in my cell and lock myself away from all the madness. And there's free content from Tank Nation all over the tablet. And they got programs, podcasts, shows. They were diversified.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So here's some facts about Megamind. Okay. He's been in for 31 years. He did 25 of these years calling his home. And I'm going to use that term lightly because prison isn't home for anybody, but this was home for him. The inmates, the staff were his family for 25 years here. He has had no cases on him in 25 years.
25 years. Not even a minor infraction.
And even then, he's only had two.
Mm-hmm.
Two. So this is a huge. Is this third one?
Yeah.
No, in 31 years.
Oh, in 31 years. Gotcha.
Yeah.
2 in 31 years. Yeah. He don't have no case right now, as far as we know of.
Yes.
No.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
So this is.
Tell them what's happened.
This is what I've gotten, guys. We have gotten that there were some activities going on behind the scenes that was inappropriate, involving some chaplains, some technicians, and, no telling how else. But Rami was not involved in this and had absolutely zero knowledge of any of it.
That's right.
To this day, they're telling him that he has no case on him. He's not under investigation. He did nothing wrong. So why was he moved in the middle of the night, shackled without any shoes on a special chain to the McConnell unit?
To give just a little bit more on it, background-wise, apparently the man has been being shaken down, having all of his stuff searched. What did he say, 20 times in the last week or two?
2 weeks.
2 weeks? At least 20 times in 2 weeks. Now, there's no other definition for that except harassment. I mean, at what number does it stop being a random shakedown and become harassment? And then if that's the case, then why are you harassing the man? No, he hasn't done anything but good, not just for himself, but for a lot of people. And that, more than anything, is why so many people are upset that this man, this paragon of an inmate, if I may say, that he's been taken down like this.
Well, and here's the thing, because he's a very Christian man, believes in God. It is a very faith-based program. The fact that they are using pornography as the excuse to shut all of this down, or that pornographic things are going on behind the scenes, like I said, allegedly. Nobody's coming out and saying this, but that's what they're going to pin on somebody like this. But yet he's not guilty of anything, and he didn't do anything wrong.
Okay, so
but as far as we know of, the only one that's been.
Yeah.
Let me say a couple things. Let me say that there are two separate incidences that we're dealing with.
That's right.
One of which is the pornography incident that was chaplain. They were not chaplains. They were chapel clerks.
That's right.
They were the clerks that were in the chapel.
Clerks.
They were completely separate from this deal. The chaplaincy, the podcast studio, those are two separate entities, but it's ran by the chaplaincy, but the offices are different. This is a locked door that only few personnel have access to, that is almost all the time recording, audio or visual. And that Rami, to add further context to the situation, this was Rami's brainchild. It was something that he created, as Audra talked about earlier, for death row. His heart for the men on death row that he had been ministering to for years and years and years. Guys that they're not going to see anything but the eyes of Jesus whenever it comes to anything. And so how many of them were going to die without knowing who he was? And he didn't want that to happen. And so he wanted to be able to inundate them with positive content, to let them know that they mattered and give them a glimpse and a hope for a future, like scripture says. And so he was literally being the hands and feet of Jesus, and other people adopted this ideology, this possibility. And one of those was, at the time, Warden Dickerson, who is now the executive director of CID for TDCJ. And so I don't want to confuse the two issues, but I also want to give you that context even more, so give the viewers the context, because Rami is so much more than just the DJ. This is something that, like he said, that she said, he told her, was that, hey, look, literally, I've got staff telling me that I'm spending too much time in here because it's become a labor of love. He's found ways to have the station automated so it can continue to produce without somebody physically being there.
That's right.
And this is a man who got locked up in 1995. When
technology was
31 years ago. That's incredible.
So he got beyond the learning curve,
got
beyond the technology curve, got beyond the incarceration curve, and all of these aspects of things, and has vaulted this thing to where it's been recognized nationally, internationally, the BBC, Houston Chronicle, all of these, NPR, all of these different national and international organizations that have come in and said, hey, you're doing a great job. Now, here's the problem that I see. How do you paradoxically go and jump on the opposite end of the spectrum and say, oh, well, we're just going to shift you along the side. You didn't really do anything wrong, and you're not really in trouble, but we're going to punish you, and we're going to do what? Because now what you've done is you've actually created a double-edged sword. That double-edged sword that you use to get positive publicity, to show the world and to show Texas taxpayers that you're progressive, and that you're all about rehabilitation and change. Who are you going to find better than the founder? Who are you going to find? I challenge you to find anybody who's been locked up 31 years that has 2 cases. Come on, Shannon. 25 years in the system, bro. You know.
No. Far from 2.
Far from 2.
I don't even know anybody like that.
That's what I'm saying. He is the anomaly.
That's right.
Yes.
If we're going to say that we're about rehabilitation and we're about change, and it's interesting that he created a slogan that's been adopted by all the brass, Director Carter specifically, promoting change through change.
Right.
And that change hasn't changed.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. At least not on some people's parts, right?
I don't understand this move. Yeah. And then after I published everything today, Amanda Hernandez sent me the email, which everybody's read, that stated, the tank has not been canceled. They're just looking for a new DJ. Okay. Again, why? If she didn't do anything wrong, why?
Yeah. There's no logic behind it. And as much as I personally make a point of never bashing or attacking, the TDCJ administration, so to speak, because, I've always tried to guard against being institutionalized. And that's one of the first forms of institutionalization. I hate all cops, all guards, all authority figures. I don't want to be like that. These are just human beings living out their lives. They have a job. Some of them do it better than others. Some are crooked, some are not. They're human like anybody else. That being said, though, man, TDC, man, you're casting a bad light on yourself with this one. You were taking everything that you supposedly want an inmate to do and become. You're taking the role model, the example
That's right.
And you just took him down, and you put him on a chain bus in the middle of the night, and
with no property,
with no shoes on,
and standing naked in the warden's office, going, "What is happening?"
Exactly.
You know,
Thank you for your 31 years of good conduct.
That's right.
Thank you so
well,
much.
not like that, but like so he sums up the entire mission statement of TDC. It's the only example of anything TDC's done that sums up the entire mission statement in just one thing.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can't get any better than that.
Absolutely.
That's a real bad look, man.
So are we going to
ahead.
talk about the genesis of where this kind of originated? Or
Yes,
I would like to.
yes,
I would
absolutely.
too.
I watched this show, but I don't know all the details.
Okay.
She does.
So I do, and I would like to just add some clarification. So there was, and I don't want people to get confused about this, because the pornography incident that happened in the chapel is a separate issue than what we're discussing with Rami. However, there has been some
cross-pollination.
Exactly.
People confusing the two.
Right.
Good word.
Thank you.
And them coming in and saying, well, you're not supposed to have this computer, or it's not registered to TDCJ. Ridiculous. There is video of Brian Collier, Carrie Blankager, Director Dickerson, all sitting around the table with his laptop, sitting in front of Rami, and every single person, every head definitely knows what he has in that studio and has approved it. So that, and also I want to say too, this is very important. There is a high-tech camera that sits in the podcast studio that is brand new, and it is always playing, and it is showing at his desk at all times.
It's pointing directly at the monitor.
You can see every monitor that Rami works off of. There is no way he could get away with anything that they are claiming. Right. There's no way.
Yeah, so it's a different, it's a different claim.
It's a different claim.
Right. They're trying to blend the two together to have their excuse, but they don't want to tell anybody what's really going on, you know? And somebody in the comments brought up, you know, a good point that they have been actually pulling some of his episodes since February. So it's almost like this has been a plan in progress. But, you know, how do we know?
It makes me suspect, and it's just speculation, but it makes me suspect that, let's just say, the faceless entity, TDCJ, that, man, they just do not want to see an inmate become that successful. And if you just want to be blunt about it, that influential, and another synonym for influential is powerful, you know, and there's a limit. They do not want to see an inmate
super succeed.
You know, they just don't. They say one thing, but
every single director has sat in there and told him what a powerful impact he has made on everybody inside of TDCJ. And they have encouraged him, and they tell the stories. I have lists of stories that he has impacted, that the people that the tank has impacted, and they have all supported him and encouraged him. So it is my thought that maybe not all of the heads know what is transpiring in this moment, and they need to. They need to.
That's also a concern of mine, is I want to know who all knows about this, who doesn't know about this. I think
they know now.
Yeah, they definitely know now.
Yeah.
Okay.
They might not have known when it was going down, when it was happening, but they know now.
Okay, so the original incident started about Easter. And so Rami was inside the studio recording, and he was live. The mics were live, the cameras were live, he was recording. Staff from information technology, the IT department, came into the podcast, and he says, "Hey guys, I'm recording."
Right.
And they gave him some expletives back, let him know that, hey, you're not running anything, you don't tell us what to do. And he's like, "Okay, guys, like, all right, good deal. If you need any, are you looking for something in particular? It's none of your business. Mind your business."
That's right.
And then they kept going about their business. Well, they took a microphone receiver, and Rami knew what they took. And what happened is that Rami goes to the chaplain, chaplain guy, goes to chaplain guy, and chaplain guy, he's like, how do you know that they took something? I watched them walk out, sir. He said, well, how do you know what they took? He said, sir, I'm in here every day. I know every piece of equipment that we have.
Every piece of equipment in here.
He said he looked at the bars and he realized, oh, sir, the microphones are on and the recorder's on. Right. So it recorded everything. And so what Rami did is he went back and he played the recording for Chaplain Guy. And he hears these IT guys laughing and joking and belittling Rami.
Woo!
And then saying, we're going to take him out.
Yeah, we're going to take something. We're just figuring out what we're going to take.
That's right.
And so they take this microphone receiver. And so once the chaplain realizes this, the chaplain's incensed. Other people get involved. And what happens is that Chaplain Guy and Rami realize, like, hey, look, Rami realizes, like, really, IT, communications, this lady's really my supervisor.
And all he wanted was the receiver back. That was it. He wasn't trying to cause a stir or tell on anyone, or he just wanted his equipment back.
So a letter was written from Rami that was the contents were put in an email from the chaplain's office and sent to the director of communications, Tina Clark. Not the director of communications, director of IT.
Yeah.
Tina Clark.
Yes.
Okay. And Tina Clark assumed that Rami had access to a state email.
And he was the one who sent the email, which is not
at all what happened.
Correct.
So he tells the chaplain, like, hey, this is like, and the chaplain says, hey, look, field ministers, life coaches, guys from the podcast, they all communicate with directors around the system just this same way. They will write a letter, we'll take the contents of the letter, and we'll send it off via email. They don't have direct access to emails.
No, they don't.
And so that is not what happened here.
No, it's not.
But what happened is that I'm assuming that somebody couldn't admit that they were wrong.
Oh, I could tell you who that is.
Okay. So in that, what happened is a cover-up began to happen, because now they realized that, okay, there are staff members that were caught and on a recorded conversation and doing some type of malfeasance. And now we look bad. And now my department looks bad. So now I need to do what I can to discredit this offender.
That's right.
And so one of the things that was attempted, and this is my understanding, was that they tried to have somebody write a statement saying that Rami sent the email from the chaplain's computer.
That's typically how it happens too.
And that staff member vehemently refused to do so because he wasn't going to lie on a government document. And fast forward, that person, that chaplain resigned. Amid the threats of being terminated and losing his
walked off the unit, y'all.
Yep,
walked off the unit. And so what TDCJ has effectively done is they have said, hey, look, if you do the right thing and stand up for what's right, but you come into the face of against the culture that we have, this good old boy, we can do the wrong thing because it's all about the gray line and that whole jacked up ideology, you're going to pay the price. And it doesn't matter if you're a staff member or if you're an offender or if you're a volunteer or if you're a podcaster who posts on and trying to improve upon the quality of life of people. We're just going to move you out of the way. We're just going to move you out of the way. And then we're going to look at you like, well, prove it's wrong. And the problem that they did here is this is such an egregious, diametrically opposed to what we know to be the fact because of the rhetoric that they've created in, oh, this is great. This is wonderful. It's amazing. Let's bring all these billionaires and politicians and celebrities in to talk about how great this thing is, how we're behind this. And now it's like, oh, well, let's just move you onto the side. Well, we're not going to let Rami go quietly.
Absolutely not. We are not. This is an injustice.
There you go.
It is.
There you go.
I am incensed by it. And I want to tell you something. I'm so furious, and I'm on the phone with Rami, right, fuming. And this is the character of Rami, right? That he's like, it's okay, little sister. We trust in Jesus. I know God has a plan. What these people mean for evil, God will produce good out of. I mean, this is the character of Rami, that in the midst of this evil and chaos, and it's so undeserved, that he is trying to encourage me.
Amen.
I mean, Rami has
Right.
more character in his pinky finger sitting in a prison cell than most people I know in the free world. He is above board when it comes to everything. He couldn't be in the position that he has maintained for 5 years. Well, in 25, not had a case,
right.
But in the position that he's been in and be doing
right.
anything but walking the line. And he's had more pressure on him because of that, because he's got to walk the line, follow the rules, not get cases. And he has done that. And this is the thing.
You have so much more to lose.
Yeah, absolutely. And more eyes on him.
That's right.
And more important.
Well, I want to touch on that. I want to touch on that too, because Jay Dan actually shared something with me from Rami today that he agreed to let me read an excerpt from, and it really touches on what Audra just said.
Yes.
So he asked him if was there anything that he wanted to let the public know. This was Rami's words. It says, if I could tell everyone something, it would be this. Scripture says, what you meant for evil against me, God meant for good, to save many people. I know it's easy to say, what's the point if all we do is lose what we build? I say we show them that what we built was not a radio station. We built a nation of people who came together in a beautiful community. Who can take that away? We are in a place like Daniel was. They're looking in the door asking, is your God with you, nation? And we should all be responding. Not only is he with us, he shut the mouth of what you thought could tear us apart. I've met some amazing people here already. The love they have shown me from the moment I stepped off that van barefoot and in shackles was the most powerful presence of Jesus I've ever felt in a long time. Isn't it odd that they chose lions to destroy Daniel? We know there is only one lion, and he's a Lion of Judah. Sometimes what they try to convince you is there to destroy you is actually the very thing that will save you. Jesus is King. Amen.
Amen.
That's the kind of character we're dealing with, y'all.
That's right.
One thing I wanted to share, she told me a story.
So yes,
that came from Rami, and I want to just share it. Just one example.
Yeah.
So he covered a baptism that happened on death row, on life row of Jedediah.
Wow.
Jedediah Murphy. And I remember because, guys, we were all incarcerated when that happened. When Jedediah was executed and his whole process. And we saw the baptism. Like we were all in there and saw it and it touched us. Let me tell you who else it touched. The family members of the victim reached out to Rami and said, I have hated this man my whole life, and I wanted nothing good to happen to him. But whenever I saw the footage of him coming up out of the water, I knew that he was a better man than I was at that particular moment.
That's exactly what he said.
Wow.
And so that's Jesus impacting people that are set to die for the crimes and the sins that they committed, who are fully repentant. And it's evident. And because of that, that person came to know Jesus. I mean,
right.
Why would you stop that? It makes no sense. It makes no sense.
I agree.
No, it doesn't.
Clearly an injustice has been done. Clearly. The thing is, solution wise, where do we see this going? Because we both know, we both said as much, that TDCJ does not like to ever admit that they did something wrong. They will go to such lengths to justify or to cover up or to redirect the conversation, or just wait for it to die out. But that being the case, I cannot realistically see them reinstating Rami as the DJ of Tank Nation. That's what everybody wants. That's what would bring sanity back to a very insane part of the world.
Well, and if they would just bring him back quietly, like we don't need a public apology. He doesn't need a public apology. He doesn't want any of that. He just wants to go home, back to his people and where he belongs, and to continue doing what he wants to do. Like it's that simple. And if he's not in trouble and he's not under investigation and he did nothing wrong, why are we looking for a new studio DJ? Why are they keeping at a unit that he, God forbid, anybody be at McConnell?
Pretty hard unit.
Why are the clerks who actually are guilty of the pornography instance in the chaplaincy office, they're still on the unit? In fact, they got moved to SEG for 1 day, investigated, and then moved into the incentivized dorm.
And got a minor case.
Still there.
Yeah.
What?
Still there.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's
incentivized dorm.
I didn't know that part.
Yeah. Yeah, we found that out last night.
Wow.
It's because he's the face of the whole thing.
Yeah, they have to punish him because
him the face of it.
He's a scapegoat.
Yes.
Right. And it is the fact that because here's the thing, what they're concerned about, unjustifiably so, they're unjustifiable in this, is that they're concerned that Rami would go outside of his proven character over 3 decades and would slander them or talk about the situation on camera or use his influence. And that's just not who he is. His thing is about improving the quality of life of people in prison, letting Jesus be heard, and to improve upon the quality of life of those of us who come out. And Shannon, we've talked about this, and I've talked about it ad nauseum to Audra. We would not be doing what we're doing if it wasn't for guys like Rami. If it wasn't for Tank Nation. You know how motivating it was for us being incarcerated to see people who were formerly incarcerated coming back in, sitting down at that table and on those microphones and telling about, I've had some opposition, but I don't know how I'm going to win. I just know I'm not going to lose. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna persevere, and all the lessons that I learned about perseverance and how to survive with so little are now the thing that makes me successful in the things that I do.
Yeah.
Yep.
And because of guys like Rami, because of the Tank, that's my story now.
That's
Audra's story now. That's your story.
And how can these people claim to support culture change and discipleship and changing your mindset, growth mindset, rehabilitation, all of these things, and then go and direct it absolutely makes no sense to me that they can go wipe out the one thing that has a positive influence on inmates all over the place. The system, that's right.
And it's been a positive thing for TDCJ as well. They've reaped all the benefits and accolades of allowing such a thing to come into creation.
I'll tell you right, let them find another radio DJ. Nobody's going to
want it. They won't. You can't. You cannot replace Rami.
No.
There are great men in TDCJ and great women. I have met some of the best people I know wear white. Period.
Me too.
There are men right now that I would trust with everything about me. However, there is no one who will be able to fill Rami's shoes. It's impossible. It's impossible.
Yeah, that'll never happen.
And so,
you know,
and what does it say? What kind of message does it send when they're wiping out the one who is completely above board, who is bringing light in the absolute darkest place imaginable? I know what it's like. It can be so dark, and it can get at you emotionally and spiritually and mentally. And for him to spend all of these years pouring out into other people and doing the kind of work that he did, what kind of message does that send when he's done everything right? And this is how he's being treated. How does that incentivize anybody else to do the right thing? Because this is what you
sadly it does the opposite. It does the exact opposite of that, because what people are seeing is, okay, if I do decide to walk the straight and narrow and I stay out of trouble 10, 15, 20 years, as impossible as that sounds, if I do all of this and I build something that is worthy, that is righteous,
It's a legacy.
All it's showing is that, okay, you could put in all that hard work and they could just come and snatch it anytime they want without an explanation.
Moreover, whenever
without an explanation, without
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And no accountability. No accountability.
And then you have the aspect of we've got this absolute inherent injustice done by staff that's completely not concerned about the truth at all.
That's right.
And staff members committed an infraction of their policy. It's not a crime. It's not a crime. It is, in fact, a policy infraction. And it was done in bad faith. It was done with the intent to
an overreaction.
Well, that was the overreaction was a response, but the mere act, the initial act, is what has not gone addressed. Still has not been addressed, as far as we understand.
Right.
But
and that was my response to Amanda Hernandez today when she emailed me. I said, "Look, you need a press statement. You need to tell." She's like, "Well, y'all saw the email. Like I said, my response to her was, okay, I will inform the public that follow the pages and my post. But I think
that's your job.
But I think you need to put out a press release. They need to hear it from you guys. What's going on? We keep talking about transparency, and I really, really left this last board meeting hopeful, like 100% hopeful. Like, okay, things are finally changing. They've heard us. They're going to start working with us, and they really want this culture change. Yeah. Then this happens. And I'm like,
let me
really?
say this.
So you want me to do all your PR on my end because I'm going to tell it the way I know it.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. I believe, and this has been my experience, just in going to the board meeting and testifying as we all did. There's an inherent difference, in my opinion, from the board and from the establishment that is TDCJ, from those who have come up in the system.
Absolutely.
As POs or COs, and they have come up and been indoctrinated into this us versus them culture. Because what we're actually coming and saying, hey, guys, we're countercultural. We don't want to be us versus you. Right. We want to partner with you, and we want to improve upon the system. Right. We want to make it a safer place for staff and offenders. We want to make it to where people get out of prison.
We want to help everybody.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I don't want staff to get hurt. I don't want staff to die. I'm a former cop. And so my whole aspect of looking at things is that I absolutely don't want anything bad to happen to anyone in uniform. I understand that a lot of those are somebody's mother and daughter and husband and father and brother and sister. And I want them to go home safely to the families. That's the golden rule of law enforcement and corrections. Go home at the end of your shift. However, stop working against us.
Right.
Abandon this good old boy system. It's not working. And here's the thing. Let me tell you why it's not working. Because it's not the 80s and 90s where there was no transparency and we didn't have access to cameras and body cameras and microphones and podcasts that allowed us, and phones inside the cells via their tablets where we could have constant contact. You can't get away with much. So let's clean up the culture together. But here's the thing is that let's keep the main thing. The main thing right now is Rami's been completely treated poorly, and his work has been proven to be thankless.
And I want to say one more thing. We've spent a lot of time talking about the tank and excuse me, the consequences of that. But let's just talk about Ronnie, the human being, for a minute, who has spent 25 years doing life and time with the same men, the same people. These people are his family. I mean, that is very apparent on the podcast with all the camaraderie and the way that they play back and forth and laugh and make it enjoyable and cut up. He was taken without any advance notice, right? There was no chance for him to say goodbye. He didn't get to take his property. The only reason that he had anything that he needed, including toilet paper, was because everybody recognized him and said, "Oh, Megamind's here, Megamind's here," and they brought him everything that he needed.
Amen.
Now he's on one of the worst units.
That's how it is too.
Worst units, and it is not fair. And if anything, he needs. If Polonsky's not going to work and they're not going to move him back, which I don't really see that happening, because they would have to admit that they were wrong, and they won't. But the last thing he told me when we got off the phone earlier was to move him back to Ramsey 1 unit. He said, if I could just get moved to Ramsey 1 unit, I want to see the podcast go on. And again, that's the character of Rami, right? It's not about him. He wants to see it all go on, but he also deserves to be in a place where he can finish out his time and just do it and be able to help minister and disciple the men on those units. He knows a lot of the men on those units. He's close to his family on Ramsey 1. He should not stay at McConnell. That is an injustice on top of an injustice.
Yeah, and Mama
So
too.
Starlet, I see your comment. Let me be. We have a comment talking about they move people around because they don't want them to get comfortable. But here's the thing: he did 25
years.
Yeah.
Yes.
years on that unit, so he'd been there for a while. It's just sad. That was home for him. As loosely as the word I want to use, it was home.
Yeah, she made a good point as well. We're looking at these comments over here, and she said, whoever replaces him, in all likelihood, we should give the man the benefit of the doubt and not make something that is already going to be a monumental task even harder on him. Because he might turn out to be a really, really good person.
Yeah.
Hopefully so. We're all praying so.
And so,
but that was a good point, and I acknowledge that. We shouldn't make something more difficult, because just like Rami, we do want the show to go on.
Of course.
Yeah. And I chose my words carefully there. I said that no one would ever be able to fill Rami's shoes. That's impossible. That's absolutely
no.
Yeah.
Stepping into it automatically going to feel the pressure.
Yeah.
Right.
That's going to be a hard job to fill.
Yeah. One more thing about Rami's humanity is Mama. He talks about his mama constantly in the show, right? Mm-hmm. And so we've all kind of adopted Mama.
Yeah.
And so one thing that Audra's had the ability to do is talk to Mama, know Mama. Mm-hmm. And Mama is...
Yeah. I have to.
Yeah, okay, so you guys know she is a sweetheart.
Oh, yeah.
And she loves her baby. Yeah. And he's 56 years old, but that's her baby.
That's right.
And the mamas know. And so, and so here she is, and she's taking care of her infirmed husband, Rami's dad.
That's right.
And so she got on the phone, and she's just so overwhelmed.
Sobbing, devastated.
A mom crying.
The whole family.
And I know that your listeners can really connect with that and understand that, because how many tears have they cried for the loved one that they're powerless to help.
That's right.
And just praying that God's going to send somebody. And I believe that he sent several somebodies.
That's right.
And so that's what this is. It is not about just one person. We're just saying that there's no better example of a culture that is indicative of doing the wrong thing and sweeping it under the rug, finding a scapegoat and letting other people suffer for incompetence, negligence, stupidity, or just a power struggle. And the thing about it is Rami doesn't want power. Rami just wants people to know Jesus. Right. That's it.
And there's nobody more deserving of this fight and this support than Rami.
Amen.
Suffered. 100%. 100%.
I'm reading some of the comments.
Yeah. It froze. It froze. Okay.
Okay.
Some tech bandits again.
Yeah, I love it.
All right, we should be good now.
Yeah.
Okay.
We love our techies.
Yeah, I love tech. But yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we got little tech bandits here and there.
All them gremlins.
Gremlins. That's a good one. But absolutely, I don't see the solution. The one thing I do want to speak on for myself while we're streaming live on here is, everybody knows I did 25 years in prison. They didn't have the tablets until about, it seems to me, about 8 years. Well, maybe not even 8 years ago, 6, 7, 8 years, somewhere right in that window. For some people, that might seem like a large window, but for somebody that's done so many years like that, they tend to bleed together. But my point is, man, I found so much inspiration watching Tank Nation. The birth of so many ideas, so many goals that I've set in my own personal life that I'm trying every day to act out and live out and flesh out.
That's right.
So many of those were born from watching the Tank Nation. So many times when I just wanted to get away from everybody and everything, that was a refuge. When I got something to do, I read so many books. I get tired of reading books, but hey, now I got my own little TV in my cell, and I ain't got no money. But hey, this is free, and don't get it twisted. Anybody that's never seen Tank Nation, it's not just a podcast.
Yeah,
there's so many programs on there.
They're super.
And they diversify it. They give great information.
Yeah, the street walks.
Yeah,
the street walk. That was
so. I keep hearing these stories about windows, and I never.
The window.
Those are the windows. Yeah.
The street
walking around the world.
It's like a window into.
But I've heard so many stories about how the windows segments went to.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was absolutely, and what it was, and Robbie would always give
stuff too.
He had an intro that he gave.
Yeah.
He said, put the headphones on.
Yeah, I know it.
To get it real tight.
Dim your light.
Turn out the lights and just escape. And that's exactly what it was, man. It was just
ask your neighbor to turn down his light or his radio.
Yeah. And see, that's the thing, man. That we connected
for the next minutes, we're about to leave prison without a felony.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's right. That was the whole point.
Yeah. And let me tell you something. Let's remember when the genesis of the tablets was. The genesis of the tablets was COVID.
Yeah.
Seeing what happened in COVID, hey, we've got to do something different. They've been putting the tablet thing off forever and forever and forever. Right. And so then it was a deal okay, now this is a necessity. Right. Do you remember the first day that your unit got tablets?
I do.
You know what I saw?
I do.
You know what I saw? The same thing I see every time I go into Starbucks.
Yeah.
The day room was silent. Nobody was sitting here. People were smiling, high-fiving, spreading.
Yes.
And let me tell you, the day rooms were
smiling everywhere. Yeah.
Empty.
That's right.
And the camaraderie.
They were quiet. The noise level dropped.
Yeah. Violence went down. Staff assaults went down. Suicides went down. Now, I was a self-harm prevention specialist on 2 different units. And so I literally saw the effects of when they started to hit G5, G4, and all of those different aspects of things when they started to open them up more and more and more and allow more and more programming to happen. But Tank Nation was the constant from the very beginning. And that's the only constant. That was before Pando. That was before Edovo. That was before any of this other stuff.
That's right.
And so, man, it's just.
I don't think it's any exaggeration to say that Tank Nation is the most popular show on the tablet. Hands down.
Easily.
Yeah.
Because it's the wonderful thing was you could log on and you may hear a shout out from somebody that you knew,
right?
Or you may see a photo from your unit, or you may hear them talking about something that you're really passionate about. And here's the thing, I'll just tell you, and I told you, Ashlyn and Shannon, whenever we went to Austin 3 weeks ago, and I stood before the House of Representatives Criminal Justice Committee and testified against a bill. That was something that I talked about doing subsequent to both Toastmasters at Giblo's unit and what I saw at
Toastmasters.
That's right. I'm getting her involved now. And so I love Toastmasters, but But Tank Nation specifically, remember when they would go and they would talk about the bills and they would talk about what affected us and how to track them. And we're literally feeling like we're watching on the Law Library app on LexisNexis, and we're tracking bills as they're going on. And in my head, I'm like, I would say this and I would say this and I would say this. And so I got emotional when we were at the Capitol because I'm like, I dreamed about this. And then to tell Rami, like, man, I got to thank you.
Dreamed of this.
You made these things that became dreams.
Yep. You sure did.
You made them possible because you were willing to stand up and to dare to be different and to think differently and to think outside the box and to say that, hey, even though I'm incarcerated, I have a dream and I have a dream and I have a vision and I have the ability to see those things to come to life. And I'm willing to put forth the work and I'm willing to go get other people and get them to adopt my vision, like Daniel Dickerson.
And that was a hard no. When this idea first came up, that was a hard no. From Dickerson. Ron. When COVID happened, he came back and said, let's give it a shot. And look what it turned into.
Which brings me to a great point.
Wow.
Well, you know, I'll share this.
What is Daniel Dickerson saying about this whole thing?
I don't know, but hold on. Let me tell you a little story real quick here. So I had a message today from a former inmate that's been out about 8 months. And he said he actually couldn't read when he went into prison. And because of Tank Nation always talking about bills and legislation, that he taught himself to read by following the show and just picking up a book and sitting down with an older, an old school, and they learned how to read together so that he could keep track of these bills.
I used to teach guys how to read sometimes. I enjoyed it.
He learned how to read.
Amazing.
That's great.
So now
so much fulfillment. You know,
we've talked about people that get their civic duty, people that learn how to do some of the most things that are basic to us that we take for granted, the ability to read. And then we've talked about a woman who was held hate in her heart for so many years of the man that took her family member's life, that was able to not only forgive, but to recognize that she too is a sinner and ask Jesus Christ in her heart, all from one podcast created by one man. And now TDCJ has isolated and treated him like he should be in SEG, like he's doing criminal acts, like he's doing illegal acts, like he was doing something wrong.
That's right.
TDCJ, you got this one wrong. You got this one wrong. We love you and we want to help you fix the problem. But
let's
you've
fix
got to admit,
the problem. Let's fix it. Let's fix it. Let's make this right. Because they
and for me, the solution's simple. The solution's very, very simple.
Easy. Send it back.
It's simple. Bring it back to Valencia. Put him back there. Nobody will say anything. We'll drop it. Nobody has to address anything. I won't ask anything at a board meeting, I promise.
No, we'll go quietly off the sunset.
Yes, we will. We sure will.
Just fix it, y'all. Just fix it. There's too many men and women and family members across this entire nation that love this man, this show, the team that he works with, the content they did, and it changes people's lives. The only thing out of that entire prison system that changes people's lives.
That's right.
And it's a quick fix, y'all. It's simple. It's that simple.
I hope so. I would love to see that, but I stand ready to be shocked.
Me too.
Me too.
Me too. But
bring Raleigh home.
That same bus that took him there can take him back.
That's right.
Can bring him back.
If they want to,
they can definitely do it.
If they want to choose not to fix the problem, well, then we just won't go away.
And
you are the problem. You become the problem.
Yeah. So here's my question.
Yes.
Audra brought it up, and it was wonderful because we talked about it in the car. At what point in time do you say, okay, we want to lower violence? That's our goal. We want to lower violence. TDCJ says they want to lower violence. They want to lower staff assaults. We want to lower staff assaults. They want to lower suicide rates. We want to lower suicide rates. That's why we do everything that we do. That's why we do it on the reentry side. That's why you're doing it on the prison side. And we do it through our clients, through our firm. But what type of message, like you said, Shannon, like Audra said, what are you sending to say that, hey, Doing the right thing will not pay off.
That's right.
Being a model inmate will not pay off.
That's
Staying
a hard.
clean
Ooh, that's a
for
hard
3
message.
decades. Staying clean for over 3 decades and being, by TDCJ's own standards, their own effort, their own push. He was a dog and pony show for them, where it was this PR campaign to go, well, look at how progressive we are.
Right.
Look at how we're the first to do this, and look at what's happening. Now, what does it say? Now, what it says is that everything you said
dividends
is crap.
That's right.
It doesn't mean anything. It was just rhetoric.
That's right.
Can we get away from the rhetoric? Can we get to rehabilitation?
Well, and I want to know, what does Mike Barber think?
Oh,
Does anybody know what Mike Barber? What does Mike Barber think about all this?
I have no clue. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm back to Daniel Dickerson. This was his brainchild. This is what he went from Warden Dickerson to Director Dickerson over a region, and now he's the deputy director over CID. And this was his brainchild. He had the first person that really got sold on the vision was Daniel Dickerson. And then he adopted it as his own along with Rami and vaulted him into this position to where he could be influential.
That's right.
And Shannon, you said something great. Influence is another word for power. They're scared of the power, but they abuse the influence. And so the interesting thing about that is that, one thing that I recognized whenever I went to prison is that previously, before I came to Jesus, I absolutely abused my influence. I threw my influence away. One of the things that Tank Nation taught me, and that Jesus taught me, that it's all through the scriptures, but even in the people that I'm around, like, I'm never going to waste my influence again. And so whenever we see people wasting their influence, and then we tell them, hey, look, keep doing that because it doesn't pay off to do the right thing. I mean, literally, if this gets out too quickly and without something being done, what's going to be the backlash whenever the offender population really finds out system-wide? I perish to think of what would happen. It's terrible.
Yeah, because unfortunately, and TDC ought to hate hearing this, is I can clearly see in my mind, I'm only 5 months out of prison, bro. I can clearly see it. All kinds of drug addicts, gangbangers, people that are thugging, and for lack of a better term, living that life. Oh, man, look what they did to that guy. Why should I do all that? See, none of that matters. I'm going to keep on doing this.
That's right.
Come on, man. I can see that happening so many times.
Well, here's an even thing.
And I can see retaliation going on, too. I can see the inmates getting very, very upset about this happening and
causing trouble.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a moment.
Just for a moment.
So here's what happens.
Just perk up.
because I'm glad that you said that, because I forgot, now I remembered. And of course I'm pink, so my complexion lets you know how excited or boisterous I am. So when you talk about retaliation, so not only was he retaliated against once, he was actually retaliated against twice. Whenever your press release came out this morning, they moved him out of the dorms back into cell.
I remember that.
So wait a minute. This is a guy who's been in dorms and cubicle living for a long time. He's almost to the point to where he's a cool bed, and he has to be in either cubicles or in a cool bed. You can't say it's because of disciplinary reasons.
No.
The day that a press release comes out that he's talking to an advocate, all of a sudden he's moved in. And let me show you how God works. They move him in with a guy who is a drug addict, who is absolutely just not trying to do the right thing.
He's passed out on the floor.
And Rami's thing is, look, I'm in this battle for my life right now. Like, anything that they could do, if this guy's got dope in here, it's going to be put on me.
That's right.
Now
they absolutely can.
Let me show you how God worked. There were guys who are not, or may not be walking for the Lord, who walked in there and went, oh no, we're not doing this.
Uh-uh.
And went and dealt with this dude
Mm-hmm.
and took him out of that cell. And then the staff came in and got Rami and took him elsewhere. Now, I'm not
So
going
is
to
that
say
the second time?
Huh?
Okay, good. So yeah, I remember Audra. I got off the phone with her about 3-ish, and she had told me that she had just hung up again, and he was moving again. So
And he's in a much better place right now.
But
see, people so rarely hear about inmates that go out of their way to do good for other inmates. But
That's right.
it happens. It happens pretty frequently, to tell you the truth. But for the most part, you got to be a good person for people to want to help you. You know,
That's right.
that's all it is, man.
That's right.
Well,
And
before we're out of time here, I think
reputation is consistent across the board.
Yes. It's called integrity. Yeah,
That's right. That's right.
That's right.
What you're doing when nobody's looking.
That's right.
And that's the thing, is that all of this time, and it's interesting because the 20 shakedowns that you mentioned were in the studio. The warden, the senior warden of Polinsky unit, Mr. Smith, Kevin Smith, came in and said, I'm really proud of you. This is the tightest ship I've ever seen, because out of 20 shakedowns, they did not find a single bit of contraband. So
And
what they did,
and in his cell.
Yeah.
They didn't just shake down the studio, they
Yeah.
shook his cell down too. Without him
they
knowing,
would always find something.
never found anything.
Well, Christina Marsh just made the comment. She said people are dying every day in prison, and they're worried about Rami.
That's amen.
Thank you.
Amen.
And here's the thing, is that what about the one person who was just about to the point to where he's saying, you know what, Jesus, I give it up. I'll lay all this down, Lord. I'll just, Lord, I thank you for this thing here that you give me in Tank Nation. And that person that's really close. And then they see this injustice and they're like, man, why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
The thing about it is don't do incentivized housing.
That's right.
And then you have an offender who is the epitome of why someone should be incentivized. And you continue to just absolutely show true character of the agency, the character of bad culture that needs to be corrected. And it will not get corrected until somebody with a new ideology comes forward and says, hey,
you cannot fix what you don't acknowledge. It's just what it is. You cannot fix what you don't acknowledge.
Yeah.
But it can be corrected. It is theoretically possible to right this ship.
It's not even difficult to correct.
And not even this.
Well, I don't know about that one. I'm talking about the system and the culture.
But it's not. But
I was talking about Rami.
Rami, no, that wouldn't be difficult.
But so here I would actually disagree, Shannon.
I
think that it actually is way more possible than people let on. What it is that, okay, so it's just like us as Christ followers, is that I had to let my old ideology die so that I could adopt a new ideology. Look, 50% of learning is unlearning. At some point in time, somebody's got to be willing to unlearn old ideologies, old ways of being. Why do we do what we do? Well, because that's the way we always done. Well, that's a dumb answer. If it doesn't
that's not
work,
a good reason.
But here's the thing: is that is textbook TDCJ. This is the way we've always done it. Why do we make offenders pick up all of their gear and take it all to the gym every 6 months?
Yes.
And we've got guys who the collective age of the offender population has risen every single year, and we have more and more who are infirmed. We have to create more and more medical facilities, and yet we don't create these differences so that we can make them last longer and be healthier through their prison stay. And so,
I continuously say that if you fix one thing, it almost will work like a well-oiled machine.
Trickle down.
This fixes this. This fixes this. It's very simple. They just have to do it.
Yeah,
and they have to care. That's the problem.
Right. But here's the thing: is that I want to see, and this is a challenge. I'm issuing a challenge for all of TDCJ to say this: to say that who's willing to dare to be different? Who is willing to stand up and say, hey, look, I'm no longer going to be quiet in this face of injustice. I'm going to do like Chaplain Guy did, and I'm going to stand up and say, hey, look, this isn't right. I'm not going to sign off on this. I'm not going to endorse this. I'm not going to let my silence be my endorsement. If this is what you're going to do, I'm out. And here's the thing, that's a brave thing, and it's a very scary thing. But what happens is people are so worried, and I witnessed it in my time incarcerated by staff members like, well, I can't do that because he knows so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. And this person who's a warden used to be his captain, or this person who used to be his warden is now the director. And so if I go and they drink beer together, or they play golf together, or they go to church together. And so if I do this, then I'm going to get crossed out. And so everybody's like, yeah, like all that's great. What about doing the right thing? Where's the right thing?
Yeah.
Can we just do the right
There
thing?
you go.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about
It's that simple. All right, guys, before we get off of here, we've had some people asking if it would be okay to contact Rami and just give him some, messages of encouragement. Absolutely. It's okay. Agree?
He would welcome them and he would appreciate it.
I think he needs to hear your voices. I think
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
And if you're going to send him,
he needs to know he's loved, he's thought about.
That's right.
He's done a lot. He's done a lot for a lot of people, man. How about a lot of us do something for him?
Yes, yeah. That's right.
And when you do that, because if you want to hear back from him, if you want him to acknowledge, please, Securus allows you to send a stamp along with it. We just ask you to do that so Mama doesn't have to incur the cost of him replying to you.
That's right.
Please, if you would. We just ask you to look out for Mom and for him in that regard.
That's right. Yeah.
So thank you so much, Ashley.
All right. Anything else, guys? I love y'all, by the way.
We love you. We appreciate everything that you've done.
Yeah.
Really great job.
Yes.
Shannon, I wish I'd see you smile like that more often, buddy.
Well, y'all have been fantastic tonight.
Oh, I just like to talk. Like,
hey, I'm working on it, man. It comes more natural.
Yeah. Just give me an opportunity to talk.
Yeah, it comes more natural as the days progress. Look, she told me I would never wear a white T-shirt again. Yeah.
Hey, bro.
Shake them off.
It ain't never my primary shirt. I promise you. I've had it. I don't own white underwear. I'm not doing it.
Yeah,
okay?
I know.
And here's the deal. I'm just waiting for the opportunity where I can actually go.
This is just me being rebellious right now.
Yeah, that's you.
That's you. Right.
It's funny. It's funny because I was who was I telling? I was telling Jay Dan the other day. I said I can't wait to go back into a pulpit and preach again. But I know the first thing I'm going to say is I just want to tell you this is not my first time preaching, but it is my first time preaching wearing my own underwear and just watching the astonishment happen on people who have never been to preach and don't know the context. It's great. So I just want to say hey to Lauren.
Yeah.
Lauren, I see you. And give my love to Connor. So I one of our clients is in here. So
okay,
yeah, so,
awesome.
Yeah. So anyway,
hey, Audra.
Look up his name.
Yes.
Audra, do you have his TDCJ number that we can give people so they know how to contact him? All right, what is it?
Absolutely. 1 second here. Let me see.
00. I know 00700.
Well, that part's easy
I
enough.
know that
yeah,
much.
It's like ancient.
that's gonna be a Sid.
Give me a second.
She's pulling it up. And Audra's probably the only
he'll love to receive mail from people, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mail is just so liberating in there, and to know that somebody out there, even people that you don't know personally, that just the simple knowledge that people know that you exist, not only that
go
they
ahead.
know you exist, but that they actually care, pressing, but that's the truth. There were some years, man, where I didn't even know if anybody knew I was alive, so it makes a difference.
Are you ready?
I'm going to post this.
It's
All
zeros.
Right. Just 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
007 05 004.
Now, bear in mind that they are taking in 2.7 million numbers now, and he is a 700,000 number.
Right.
So if that gives, there have been 2 million people come in and out of TDCJ since Rami has been in TDCJ.
And I want
Hey,
to say,
read it one more time.
okay, it's 007 05
700.
No,
Uh-huh.
007 05 004.
Okay. Okay.
And as positive as Rami always is, I
Okay.
can tell.
So 007 05 004.
Yeah, 007 05
Hold on.
004.
Yeah, 705,004.
Right. 2 zeros at the start.
Got it.
As positive as Rami always is, I know and can tell just.
All right. I'm posting it in the comments over here. There we go. Thank you, Starlet. Yay.
Yeah, perfect. That's perfect. He would love the encouragement. I know that this hurts his heart, so thank you for doing that. His last name is Hozaifeh. It's HOZAIFEH.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I'm glad you knew that off the top of your head because I did not. I knew his
It'll
last
come
name.
up with the number.
I
Yeah.
got it. I got it. It is HOZAIFEH.
That's right.
Yeah, y'all got all that? When you type in his TDC number, it'll come up.
It'll come right up. Yeah.
No, you do not have to be on his contact list. Actually, you'll go into your e-messages. You'll add him as a contact through his TDC number, and then you will then pop up on his tablet.
Yes.
You can send him a message, and you can add a stamp,
Yes.
a reply stamp.
Right.
Thank you, Starlet. We keep freezing over here with the goblins. So thank you for putting that in the comments for us. All right, guys, we're about to get out of here.
Okay.
I will see y'all Sunday.
Okay.
And then, we'll touch base. If this is not resolved by, let's say, next Tuesday, then we're gonna see what we need to do.
Awesome.
Sounds
We'll keep
good.
people updated.
We will keep you
That's
updated.
This ain't over yet.
It's not
This
over.
ain't over yet.
Good night, everybody.
Everybody,
night.
good night. Have a great night, everybody. Stay free. Stay
That's right.
free.